Doctor Strange 2, The Multiverse of Madness, was super demonic, but nevertheless the Lord taught me a really profound lesson as I was watching it and discussing it with my wife afterwards. Spirit Life! Hey, I'm Bruce Wham, your Christian movie reviewer on Spirit Life. I want to talk about the themes in Multiverse of Madness, and I'll give a little bit of a warning up front before I get into spoilers. My warning is this: Doctor Strange 2 is not for children, period. In fact, I would spell it period with the T at the end of it. For real, it's a PG-13 rating, but I don't know how they got away with it. There's not necessarily a bunch of visceral gore in the sense that you see bloody entrails or anything, but this is, by and large, a horror type movie within the Marvel comic book style. What I mean is this, without giving too many spoilers, there are some gruesome deaths. Normally, when you see someone die on screen in a comic book movie, especially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's not a lot of blood or anything, somebody kind of just passes away. But in this film, you see some really gruesome deaths, and again, maybe they're still PG-13 because they didn't show all the blood splattering everywhere, but it leaves a lot to the imagination, and what you do see is very visceral, not for kids. Look, I realize that some people are okay with zombie stuff or gore, and they maybe have a higher tolerance for that kind of thing. Not so with me, but I actually believe that we human beings are not supposed to be desensitized to violence so much that, it's no big deal, you're just being too sensitive. I don't take that approach, and I think if you're a Christian and you're wanting my advice, do not show this film to your kids, at least. That said, there is some fear, and the darker tone of the movie could be frightening. And if you have a sensitivity to anything demonic, I would definitely say you as an adult might want to avoid the film. You're not missing much. Marvel's been on a little bit of a downhill slope ever since Endgame, and it makes sense. They're in a new chapter, a new series, they're trying new stuff. Sometimes it's a hit, but in this case it's a miss. I actually enjoyed Doctor Strange on a certain level. Any Marvel movie where it's got all the big production value, the visuals and things like that, it's going to be enjoyable, and if you just turn off your brain and look at it like a popcorn film, there's a certain amount of enjoyment. But the quality of film that we're getting these days in Phase 4 of the Marvel Universe is not the same quality that you got with something in, say, Phase 2 with The Winter Soldier, or some of the better films like Infinity War. Without getting into spoiler territory, I will say that the movie portrays demonic elements. That being said, I'm actually not opposed to portraying something that's evil if it is shown to be evil. In other words, if the villain is doing bad things and you know this is the bad guy, don't do that stuff, it's bad because he's the bad guy and because it has bad consequences. If that's the case, I'm okay with portraying certain things. Again, maybe not the gore, and maybe not highlighting something that celebrates violence in a bad way, or maybe that celebrates wickedness. But in this film, the evil that's portrayed is from both the good and the bad guys, and it really, really bothers me. I was talking to my wife on the drive home, and she was really upset that she wasted all of her time on this movie, and we went and watched it in the theater. She was upset we even wasted money on the film because of what we were exposed to visually. A couple other things to be mindful of: there is a use of taking the Lord's name in vain. There is also a scene where there's two moms, a gay couple, and again, as a Christian movie reviewer, this is something I want to point out, not because I'm like, oh, gay people exist, I'm scared of that, or I can't tolerate that. That's not the reason that I get up in arms about the portrayal of homosexuality in a film, but when it's normalized, when it's portrayed as good or okay or acceptable or to be celebrated, that's when we have to draw a line, because it's unbiblical. We have zero hate for gay people. Christians have zero hate for anybody. I mean, real Christians, the ones that love the Lord and His love has overflowed through them to other people. We don't hate anybody. But what I'm saying is we can't tolerate an unbiblical lifestyle, or we can't celebrate something that the Bible prohibits. So yes, there's a gay couple in the film that's not super prominent, but they're there. And then I would imagine that every single Marvel movie from this point forward is going to show a gay couple in the movie somewhere. Go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's really helping the channel. We've had a lot more subscribers over the past year, and I want to grow this channel and reach more people with the gospel of Jesus. And that's what I want to talk about. The gospel, according to Dr. Strange Multiverse of Madness, is that you can use evil to fight evil. Well, that's no gospel at all, and that's just a false claim. It doesn't make sense, but it's very unbiblical too. Jesus said, "Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself will not stand." If Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then will his kingdom stand? And if I cast out demons by Beelzebub, by whom do your sons cast them out? Therefore they shall be your judges. But if I cast out demons by the Spirit of God, surely the kingdom of God has come upon you. Jesus was accused of using demonic power to cast out demons. But he said, that's ridiculous. Why would Satan give me power to take down his servants? Satan's a loser, but he's no fool. In other words, he's wicked and he's cunning. And we Christians need to be wise about what he's doing, and we need to be aware of his schemes so we can avoid them. So without giving spoilers yet, the movie portrays one of the villains as using demonic powers, and that person is a villain. So them using demonic powers makes sense because they're a villain, and it's shown to be evil. But the problem is, then some of the good guys tap into that same evil power to defeat that villain, and that's a wrong message. Now let me say this. Literally speaking, I don't believe anybody watches a fantasy movie like Doctor Strange, WandaVision, or Harry Potter even, and I don't think they literally think that's a real spell. I'm going to do that same Levioso, or I'm going to, find the Darkhold and learn how to do magic. I don't think that's the risk when someone watches one of these type movies. The risk is that they'll get the wrong message. The wrong message is that if we attempt to gain power and to tap into some other source of help other than the Lord, it's witchcraft. Now the movie tried to make a difference between sorcery and witchcraft, as if there's a difference between the two. Now in Doctor Strange 1, Doctor Strange himself learned how to tap into alternate dimensional power and energy, and I kind of looked at that as a sci-fi thing and I gave it a pass. But in this movie there's for real witchcraft, and you see actual demons, like literal ghostly black demon ugly monster guys in the movie. Now if these were demons that were getting cast out in the name of Jesus by the blood of the Lamb, I wouldn't mind that portrayal. But the problem is, the good guys were somewhat teaming up with these demons. You can't do that in real life. Satan does not cast out Satan. You can't use demons to fight demons. You can't use fleshly, worldly, human power to accomplish the things of God. God was speaking to me about this because really it all boils down to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil versus the tree of life. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is taking things into our own hands. It's the epitome of witchcraft. Doing things by our own accord, us deciding what's good or bad or what's right or wrong or how we should accomplish something, taking matters into our own hands, taking of that fruit and eating it for ourselves, though it's forbidden. That's what witchcraft is all about, tapping into power. And there is such a real thing as witchcraft. It's totally demonic. And no matter what accomplishment or goal seems to get achieved through demonic power, it will always backfire. Not to say you can't feel like you're getting something done, or you're really cursing somebody or getting some sort of demonic influence. Demons are real. They will do things and they will work hand in hand with people who accomplish their goals. But that's the key. It's their goals, not ours. Satan does not care about you. He's not an ally. He's not a friend. Demons are not your companions. They don't assist you to accomplish anything. They only want to steal, kill, and destroy. God is offering the tree of life. Remember, Adam and Eve could have always eaten at any time, at any point in the day, any time they wanted from the tree of life. God is constantly offering nourishment to our souls. He came to give life and life abundant. We don't need to take matters into our own hands. We don't need to pursue witchcraft or our own power with our own fleshly accomplishments. We can actually depend on Him. God empowers people to do great things. I've healed deaf ears and blind eyes through the power of Jesus. It's not by my own superpower. I don't wield a superpower like a comic book hero, but I've seen amazing miracles. God is so much more powerful than anything the demonic realm could ever offer. God has caused people to walk on water and do miracles, teleporting from one place to the next, raising people back from the dead. God can multiply food. He provides nourishment, kindness, love, peace that passes understanding, joy inexplicable. There's really no comparison, but the temptation to do things on our own outside of God's timing, outside of His parameters. It's the same issue with homosexuality that I mentioned a moment ago. We don't hate people who are tempted in that direction. We just want people to stay within the boundaries God has given us. You can put this with anything in life. God gave us food to enjoy. He gave us a tongue to taste, and we could have just absorbed nutrients from the air or some other method, but He gave us food to taste. But gluttony is a sin because eating too much of it and indulging and feeding our body in a way that's outside of the boundaries God designed for our bodies is a bad thing for our bodies. Same thing with our spirits. If we go after sources of pleasure, sources of fulfillment, sources of safety or security or fulfillment for our hearts in a way that's outside of God's parameters, even if it could be a good thing within His parameters, if it's outside His parameters, it's bad. So witchcraft is actually an attitude that can show up in a lot of different places in our lives, forcing our will, maneuvering around God's timing because we're impatient or we don't trust that He's good and He'll actually give us the things that we need for our lives. So let's get into spoilers. Doctor Strange literally possesses an alternate reality version of himself who's dead and resurrects this zombie body back to life to go fight Wanda, and he surrounds himself with a cloak of demons that are flying around and he's controlling them and using them to attack Wanda, who, by the way, is a villain in this film. I want to say the film did one thing well. It actually had consequences for Wanda Maximoff. The Scarlet Witch developed in the WandaVision show as someone that was supposed to be a sympathetic character, but a lot of people said, hey, why is she getting away with this? She mind controlled a whole village and there was no consequence. She just got away, and it seemed like at the end of the show people were supposed to feel sympathetic because, oh, well, she sacrificed her made-up kids, her make-believe children. She gave up a lot. No, dude, she was a villain. And she got a hold of the Darkhold, the Book of the Damned. She began reading this witchcraft book, and it turned her evil. I'll tell you this, the movie got one thing right. When you start down that path of evil, it will consume you. When you start going after evil, it's like an addiction. It's a slippery slope that will pull you down. Satan always takes you further than you wanted to go, and he always gives you a consequence that's worse than you could ever imagine. But the problem is, now Stephen Strange, because he dabbled with the Book of the Damned, and he got into this dark magic or whatever, now he is a little bit cursed by the dark side himself. He's got a third eye. That's really a satanic symbol. We all know that, but he's still living with it. He's supposed to still be our protagonist. He's supposed to still be our hero, and he's a good guy, but he used evil to fight evil. So the movie accidentally gave a good message because it showed that evil does exist, and if you pursue a life of evil, it's going to have negative consequences. But the incorrect message that the movie gave us was that if you want to use evil to fight evil, maybe the ends justify the means. Maybe you can get away with some things and, push the boundary a little bit. That's not a good message. So at the end of the day, now I'm left to believe that what I considered sci-fi sorcery, if you want to use that term, from Doctor Strange 1 really is just magic or witchcraft or some other form. Now they can split hairs within the films and say one is different and one is demonic and the other's better, but in real life we know they're both demonic. There's a lot more I could say about the film, but I feel like the main lesson that I wanted to harp on was about the witchcraft, and particularly that download that the Lord gave me about the knowledge of good and evil versus the tree of life. That's what this all boils down to. And it's a lesson that I'm going to carry with me because in my regular life, yeah, I'm not doing magic spells, I'm not fighting ultra-dimensional beings, but we are in a spiritual battle. We are in a war against demons that are all around us, but we need the Lord more than ever these days, especially if you see what's going on in the world around us with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. All the demons are coming out in full force. People are manifesting. They're fighting for this wicked thing because they're afraid they're going to lose their right to kill babies. It's crazy. As the times draw nearer to the Lord's return, as the days grow darker, I believe that the light will shine brighter, and those who are Christian can do great exploits. We're called to do that. We're called to shine a bright light of hope and healing, but we're also called to purity. Meanwhile, the darkness is just going to keep getting darker. Hey, if you found some value in this video, hit that subscribe button. And be sure to share this with somebody. You may be worried that somebody is just such a big Marvel fan that they're going to watch no matter what, but this may be the time to start sitting some of these movies out. Let me know your thoughts. Did I just totally miss it? Did you watch the film and picked up a totally different message? I'm open to hear that. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. This is Bruce on Spirit Life.